Welcome to my channel. Subscribe and enjoy daily stories about cheating, revenge, and relationship advice. The annual town gala was a beacon of opulence, a gathering where the elite of our community came together to celebrate their successes and strengthen their social ties. Tonight's event was held in the grand ballroom of the Hilton, its chandeliers casting a warm, golden glow over the elegantly dressed crowd. I had always enjoyed these occasions, but this year was different. I had a plan that would alter the course of many lives, including my own. As I approached the podium, I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment settle over me. Vanessa sat at the front table, her sparkling gown and radiant smile drawing admiration from the crowd. She had always been the center of attention, the social butterfly who thrived in these settings. But tonight, she was oblivious to the storm that was about to unfold. I began my speech, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us this evening. It's always a pleasure to gather with friends and celebrate our community's achievements. This year, however, I have something personal to share. I paused, glancing at Vanessa. Her eyes met mine, and she offered a smile that was both warm and slightly apprehensive. I could see the unease she tried to mask with her charm. Many of you know my wife, Vanessa, and our journey together, I continued, trying to keep my tone neutral. We've built a life together that I thought was strong and unbreakable. But tonight, I'm here to reveal something that has shattered that illusion. The room grew quiet, the buzz of conversation fading as the anticipation built. I clicked the remote to start the presentation. The screen flickered to life, showing a serene family photo of Vanessa and me, along with our children. The image then transitioned to a sequence that would forever change our lives. As the first frames of the video played, a murmur of confusion swept through the crowd. Vanessa shifted in her seat, her smile fading as she saw the images of herself with John, her boss. The screen showed them in seemingly innocent settings, dinners, casual meetings, but it was clear where this was heading. A voice from the crowd broke the silence. "Is that Vanessa?" I didn't need to respond. The video spoke for itself. The camera captured intimate moments between Vanessa and John, their private dinners, their flirtatious exchanges, and, finally, their passionate embraces. Gasps and whispers filled the room as the gravity of the situation sunk in. I watched Vanessa's face as the video continued, her shock giving way to disbelief and then to devastation. She clutched at her chest as if trying to hold herself together, but it was clear she was unraveling. Her eyes darted around the room, searching for escape. Finally, the video ended. I stepped forward to address the room, feeling the weight of every gaze upon me. As you've seen, my wife has been involved in an affair with her boss, John. The evidence is undeniable. I've decided to end our marriage. The divorce papers are here for you to witness. Vanessa stood up, her legs unsteady. "Richard, please," she began, her voice trembling. "I didn't mean for this to happen." "Save it," I interrupted, my voice cold. "The damage is done." I handed her the divorce papers, the crisp sheets of paper that would legally dissolve our marriage. She took them with shaking hands, tears streaming down her face. She turned to the crowd, her expression one of pure humiliation. "I'm sorry," she whispered, barely audible. "I'm so sorry." Without waiting for a response, Vanessa fled the room. The doors swung open behind her, and I saw her silhouette disappear into the night. The once festive atmosphere was now charged with a heavy silence, the aftermath of her departure settling over the crowd. I stood at the podium, my own emotions a mix of relief and sorrow. The gala had transformed from a celebration into a public spectacle, one that would be remembered long after the evening ended. As I looked around at the faces of our friends and acquaintances, I knew that this night would mark the beginning of a new chapter in all our lives. The atmosphere in the grand ballroom shifted palpably as the room's chatter subsided into an uneasy silence. I stood at the podium, the remote control trembling slightly in my hand. Vanessa's eyes, once filled with a confident sparkle, now darted nervously around the room. The anticipation was almost palpable. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, trying to project calmness, "I'd like to present something very personal. This isn't easy for me, but I believe it's necessary for transparency." The crowd shifted, the murmurs rising in pitch as they sensed something significant was about to unfold. I clicked the remote, and the screen flickered to life, showing a picturesque family photo of Vanessa and me with our children. The initial frames were innocuous, depicting our typical family gatherings and vacations. I could hear a low voice from the crowd. "What's this about? I think it's some sort of family video," another voice whispered. "He's never shown anything like this before." The mood in the room grew tense as the images shifted. The video began with scenes of Vanessa and John, casual at first, an office party, a dinner out. Their interactions seemed friendly but increasingly intimate. I could hear gasps and murmurs growing louder as the video progressed. "Is that John?" a woman in the front row asked her companion, her voice barely containing her shock. "Yes, I think it is," came the strained reply. The video continued, showing Vanessa and John arriving at a hotel together. The frame showed them checking in, their hands brushing against each other with a familiarity that was anything but professional. I saw Vanessa's face turn pale as the video moved to clips of them kissing in the hotel room. The room was silent except for the occasional whisper and the hum of the projector. One of Vanessa's closest friends, Marie, leaned over to her husband and said in a horrified whisper, "I can't believe this. I thought Vanessa and Richard had the perfect marriage." Marie's husband, Tom, shook his head, his face reflecting the same shock. "Apparently not. This is devastating." The screen then cut to more intimate moments, Vanessa and John in bed, their affection on full display. The crowd was silent now, each person absorbing the gravity of what was unfolding. Vanessa's hand flew to her mouth as she saw these private scenes projected for everyone to see. Tears welled up in her eyes, and she looked around the room in desperate confusion, her face flushed with a mix of humiliation and disbelief. "Richard, please." Vanessa's voice broke through the silence. "This isn't fair. This is a private matter. We should talk about this in private." I took a deep breath, my resolve firm. "Vanessa, the time for talking has passed. The truth needed to be exposed." The video concluded, leaving the screen blank. The room was filled with the collective murmur of the audience processing what they had just witnessed. Vanessa's closest friends rushed to her side, their attempts to offer comfort overshadowed by the shock of what they had just seen. A man at the back of the room, who had been quietly observing, finally spoke up, his voice loud and clear. "I never thought Richard would do something like this. It's brutal." Another guest nodded in agreement. "He must have been deeply hurt. But airing this in public, it's a lot." I glanced around the room, seeing the mix of pity and judgment reflected in the eyes of our friends and acquaintances. The weight of my actions was starting to fully sink in, but I knew there was no turning back. The decision to reveal Vanessa's betrayal had been a painful one, but it was now out in the open, and the fallout would be felt by everyone involved. As the final frames of the video faded, the ballroom's ambience had irrevocably changed. The glittering event had become a spectacle of heartbreak and betrayal, and the evening was far from over. The room felt stifling as I concluded my presentation. The once luxurious gala had turned into a crucible of public scandal. Vanessa, now the focal point of the evening's drama, was visibly crumbling. The sounds of shocked conversations and murmurs filled the space, but my attention was solely on Vanessa and the task ahead. "Richard," Vanessa pleaded, her voice quavering. "Please, this isn't the right way to handle this." I remained unmoved, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. "Vanessa, you had your chance to be honest. Now it's time for the truth to be out in the open." I handed her the divorce papers, which I had prepared in advance. Her hands shook as she took them, her face a mask of devastation. "This is a mistake," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "We can work this out." The crowd's sympathy was palpable, but there were also harsh whispers. "I can't believe she would do something like this," one guest said. "And in such a public way." I thought they were a perfect couple, another guest added, shaking their head. This is just awful. Vanessa's closest friend, Marie, approached her with a concerned look. Vanessa, are you okay? She asked, her voice filled with genuine worry. No, Marie, Vanessa said, her voice breaking. I'm not okay. This is a nightmare. Marie put a comforting hand on Vanessa's shoulder, but the gesture seemed to do little to ease the pain. Vanessa's eyes were glazed with tears, her composure slipping with every passing second. I stepped aside, giving Vanessa space to address the room if she chose to. The crowd watched her with a mix of curiosity and sympathy. Vanessa took a deep breath, her resolve faltering as she faced the gathering. I'm sorry, she said, her voice cracking. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I'm deeply sorry for the pain I've caused. Her apology was met with a murmur of sympathy, but the damage was already done. Vanessa's once confident demeanor had been replaced by a palpable sense of shame. She glanced at the exit, her escape route. I need to go, Vanessa said abruptly. I need to get out of here. Her attempt to leave was met with an awkward silence. Guests watched as Vanessa fled the ballroom, her exit marked by the swish of her gown and the quiet, stifled sobs that followed her. The doors closed behind her, and the room remained filled with a heavy, uneasy silence. I watched her departure with a heavy heart, feeling the weight of my actions but also a sense of finality. The crowd began to disperse, their conversations shifting to the shocking events of the evening. I was left standing at the podium, the reality of the situation settling in. In the days following the gala, Vanessa's life unraveled. Her public humiliation led to a significant decline in her social standing. Her phone rang incessantly with calls from concerned friends and angry acquaintances. Her professional life suffered as well. Her real estate business struggled as she faced the fallout from the scandal. In the midst of this chaos, I moved forward with my own life. The divorce was finalized, and I focused on my career, channeling my energy into my work. Vanessa's absence left a void, but it was one I had been prepared to fill with renewed purpose. The public and private consequences of the evening's events had far-reaching effects. Vanessa's journey to rebuild her life was fraught with difficulty, while I began to see new opportunities unfold. The path ahead was uncertain, but it was one that promised both challenge and growth. The days following the gala were a whirlwind of change and reflection. Vanessa's departure had left a significant mark, not only on her but also on the community and myself. As the scandal settled into the fabric of our lives, its repercussions rippled through every aspect of our existence. Vanessa's new beginning. Vanessa retreated to a quieter town, away from the prying eyes of our previous community. Her new life as a real estate agent in this small town was a far cry from the glamorous life she once led. The transition was jarring, marked by a mix of resentment and resolve. In a modest real estate office, Vanessa sat at her desk, staring at the phone. It had been weeks since she'd moved, and the initial excitement of starting anew was wearing thin. Her colleague, Sandra, stopped by with a cup of coffee. "How's the first week going?" Sandra asked, trying to sound upbeat. Vanessa forced a smile. "It's been tough. I'm still adjusting to everything." Sandra's eyes softened with empathy. "I can only imagine. But this town is full of potential. You just need to give it time." "Time," Vanessa repeated, her voice tinged with bitterness. "Something I wish I had more of." Sandra patted her shoulder sympathetically. "It'll get better. Just hang in there." Vanessa nodded, though she wasn't entirely convinced. Her reputation was in tatters, and rebuilding it felt like an uphill battle. Despite her efforts, clients were hesitant, and the weight of her past lingered in every interaction. Richard's new chapter. Meanwhile, I threw myself into my work with renewed vigor. The aftermath of the gala had created an unexpected opportunity. With the community's support, I continued to excel in my career. My involvement in local politics had been solidified, and I decided to run for mayor. On the campaign trail, my new wife, Laura, was a constant source of support. We often discuss the challenges of blending our lives while managing the responsibilities of public life. During one of our quiet moments at home, she asked, "How are you holding up with all the public scrutiny?" I looked up from my campaign notes, taking a deep breath. It's been intense. But I've learned a lot from this experience. It's made me stronger, and it's given me a clearer vision for what I want to achieve as mayor. Laura smiled reassuringly. I'm proud of you. You're turning a difficult situation into something positive. My campaign gained momentum, and the support from the community was palpable. The experience had transformed me, and I felt a renewed sense of purpose and direction. John's consequences. John, Vanessa's former lover, also faced the consequences of his actions. His professional life suffered as he became entangled in the scandal. His business faced backlash, and clients began to distance themselves. In a quiet, dimly lit office, John met with his business partner, Greg. The atmosphere was heavy with unspoken frustration. "Greg, I didn't expect things to blow up like this," John said, his voice filled with frustration. Greg shook his head. "I don't think anyone did. But we're paying the price. Clients are leaving, and the media won't let this go." John rubbed his temples, feeling the weight of his choices. "I know. I'm trying to salvage what I can, but it's like trying to hold on to sand." Greg sighed. "We need to regroup and figure out how to move forward. This isn't just about salvaging our business, it's about rebuilding our reputations." John nodded, feeling the enormity of the task ahead. His once promising career had been marred by scandal, and the road to recovery seemed daunting. Reflections and moving forward. As the weeks turned into months, the lives affected by the gala began to settle into new rhythms. Vanessa, though still grappling with her past, started to find a semblance of normalcy in her new town. Her clients began to trust her again, and slowly, she started to rebuild her life. I continued my work as a mayor, using my experiences to guide my decisions and foster a community focused on growth and understanding. The past had left its mark, but it also provided a foundation for a future built on resilience and change. John, too, began the slow process of rebuilding his career, taking on smaller projects and working to restore his reputation. The journey was long and fraught with challenges, but it was a path towards redemption and recovery. In the end, the fallout from that fateful evening had reshaped our lives in profound ways. The scars remained, but so did the lessons learned and the strength gained. The aftermath of the scandal had been a crucible of personal and professional transformation, one that each of us would carry forward into the future.